Hello, my friends. It's that spooky time of year where we all celebrate things like magic and creepy things and hauntings and witches and mysterious and spooky things. Halloween is a fantastic time of year. It's one of my favorites. In this special video series, which I hope is the first of many annual series like this to come, I will be explaining to you how the holiday of Halloween is experienced in the world of powwow. So sit back, grab your favorite chai spiced tea, and enjoy the very first annual powwow Halloween Spooktacular. A lot of us like ghost stories. A lot of us even have a ghost story of our own. As a powwow, part of our work may actually call upon us to be a paranormal investigator. And I'm actually both. During my time with a paranormal investigation group, of which I'm still a part of, I've been educated very well by someone who's very, very knowledgeable and experienced in the field. And her education has taught me so much more about the spirits of the dead than I ever knew. And sometimes people believe their house is haunted and they say, but it's a friendly ghost. He just flips lights on and off once in a while. And sometimes I feel like they're there giving me comfort. Don't be fooled. One of the things that I've learned is that there are several different types of hauntings. There is the kind of poltergeist activity where things just fall and get knocked over and randomness happens, seemingly without any sort of pattern. A lot of times this sort of activity takes place around younger kids, like early teens. So poltergeist activity is believed to be sparked by the onset of puberty and maybe some mental distress causing like the early teen years. Then there are the types of hauntings that are more like an historical imprint on a location. In other words, it's an event that was so traumatic, it sort of imprinted itself. And so you will see that scene play out, or you will hear the same sounds repeated at certain times of day or night, or certain times of the year or whatever, where that scene is literally being replayed. Generally speaking, those types of spirits involved in that, you can't communicate with them because they're not really there. It's just an imprint. It's just like a movie clip, if you will, imprinted on a location. Then there are the intelligent type hauntings where the spirit or being that has set up residence in that location is intelligent and can be communicated with, and can communicate with you. Now, there would be the benevolent kind, which are the friendly ghost types, and then there are the malevolent kind, which are there with nefarious purpose, with hate or evil inside of them, what have you. Keep in mind that nobody really knows why some people linger after death. Nobody can really explain that. There are theories, countless theories, and any good expert will tell you that nobody really knows. So if you meet someone claiming to have all the answers and they say, well, they're here because they need to resolve this and they look like this and they're trapped, I would not trust that person. Nobody really knows. But if you find yourself with an intelligent haunting, call an investigator. You have to get an investigative team in there, because that brings me to the other kind of spiritual inhabitants in your home or location or whatever, and that's the demonic. And by demonic, that covers a wide range of malevolent beings. That could be literal demon disguising itself as someone friendly to you, or just trying to win your trust slowly over years by making their presence slightly known, and it seems friendly and kind and you trust it, you feel comforted by it, but eventually that entity is going to start turning and showing its true nature, and by then it will have been too late. So there are all different types of spirits. Then there are things like nature spirits. They say there are like mischievous kinds of spirits that can get into your home, and that's more of a cultural thing. So really look into your culture, the culture that you are from, and the culture that you live in, and see if there's an answer there. Generally, you find those types of nature spirits where you have gardens and forests and fields around your home, things that would attract such beings. Now, if there are other types of spirits, other malevolent, like lower level entities and such, that's really where you're going to have to call in an expert. But just keep in mind, even the experts might not have all the answers. But a good paranormal investigative team will come into your home, and they will be very scientific in their approach, and they will do everything they can to rule out what you have experienced as something natural, scientific. We will go in there and try and determine the source and cause of all of these things, so as to put your mind at ease. We're not there to disprove you or call you a liar, nothing like that. But that's with ghosts and spirits. And so as a powwow, we have to, we can be called upon by somebody who will say, well, there's this entity in our house and it's causing all sorts of mischief and sickness and illness. Right away, your mind goes to either a malevolent person or something demonic. Because generally speaking, something friendly would not do that to you. So please do not try and tackle these things on your own unless you are trained to do so, but most of us are not. Even those of us who are, every experience is going to be new, and so we're going to have to learn from that experience. So seeing as how it's Halloween, and this is the time of the year when communication with the dead is easier, they say the barrier that separates the world of the living and the world of the dead is like thinner, if you will. And so communication is more possible, and sightings are more likely. And contact from beyond is commonplace. So please don't be fooled at this time of year, and stay calm. If you experience something paranormal, reach out, because you will have, no doubt you will have a local paranormal investigation group in your area. And if you are in the South Central Pennsylvania area and you do experience something paranormal, don't freak out. Go to Spirit Searchers, Paranormal Investigations, or just contact me directly and I'll get the team on the case. So be safe this year, and keep up your guard. Don't welcome anything into your home. Don't do any kind of ritualistic or magical things that would invite some sort of spiritual presence into your home. Steer clear of Ouija boards, steer clear of seances, don't be calling up demons and such, because you will invite something. And I guarantee you that something is not going to be there to offer you comfort. Any good and responsible practitioner of magic, especially folk magic, will tell you that of the utmost importance is to have your protection, charms, and magics in place, always. As a powwow, I can tell you from experience that the more protection you put up, not only will you be safer, obviously, but your actual powwow healing work will be improved. And that's because you won't have any sort of negative influences working against you, or they will have been drastically reduced by the protections you have put in place. Protection, charms are one of my specialties. I create more protective talismans and charms than anything else in powwow. Some of the ways you can protect yourself, and these protections will work against thieves, common thugs, ghosts, other spiritual entities that you don't want around, the demonic, hexerai, which is negative witchcraft, and all just sorts of negative, like naysayers and doubter influences and such with. So one of the things that I want you to get a hold of is iron. Anything you can get that's iron is protective. Now, since the summer, my last wedding anniversary, I got this iron wristband. It does not come off unless I get some sort of tool to bend it off. So this was my gift. I wear it, never take it off, and it adds to my protection of my body. I have iron spikes, iron railroad spikes, all around my property in the ground. I have Brock bags, which are just little muslin cloth bags filled with protective herbs and talismans, everywhere on my property. I have what's called a witch's jar, or a witch's bottle. It's a glass jar you fill with nails and shards of glass and your own urine, and you seal it up with black wax and put it under your front porch. I have several of those around the property. I have handwritten charms and talismans buried in the ground all around the property. I have things carved into my fence post, engraved into the fence post before we put the fence in, so now they're permanently in the ground, making my fence a protective shield around my property. Many things. I have hex signs all over the property. I have Sator squares everywhere. I even have a Sator square tattooed on my body. So I feel very well protected. I have used holy water to draw crucifixes on all the windows. I have salt surrounding my house. I go around the house at least once a year with blessed water to create a shield. All of this stuff, everything I'm talking about, can be found on my website or in any of the powwow source materials, like the Long Lost Friend, the Romanus book, that sort of thing. Also my powwow grimoire that I wrote, if you're interested in buying a book, but not really necessary. You can find a lot of that stuff on my website and also look through the blog post. But protection is so important. I cannot stress it enough. If you are not doing the protective stuff, then anything else you do is at risk, especially at this time of year when there are so many supernatural forces at work, more so than any other time of year. You have other powwows out there working. You have witches, certainly. You have spirits and demonic forces and such. So protect yourself at all costs, especially at this time of year. You can never have too much protection, so stay safe. I don't think anything really fascinates people as much as the idea of witchcraft and witches. And let's look at witchcraft in a modern perspective, because that's what we have, is modern day witchery. It's become very popular. It's become almost kind of chic. I've been acquainted with many people who claim to be witches over the years, and you know what? They're totally fine. But in the context of Pennsylvania German powwow, coming at the perspective of a powwow, when we're talking about witchcraft, we don't mean the Wicca people, the modern witches, good people, usually some sort of goddess worship, their threefold law and all that. They celebrate their holidays and such. And Halloween is a big one for them. A lot of them say it's their new year. Some just think it's their biggest festival ever, where they get to be their witchy selves. You know what? More power to them. It's great. It's interesting. It's fun. But what we're talking about here is what's called a hex, the German word for witch. A hexen is a witch. And in Pennsylvania German culture, a hexen doesn't have a good side. Hexerai is one who has sold their soul to the devil in exchange for supernatural power here on earth. Unfortunately, it works like a curse. They have a compulsion. They have to do these things. They have to perform this nefarious magic. And you hear it all through history, like people coming down with crazy illnesses and such because they've been hexed by their neighbor who wants their property. A lot of it has to do with property disputes and so forth. The Hexen were never up to any good, and there's nothing in history to prove otherwise. So you have, at this time of year, especially here in South Central Pennsylvania, you never know what they're up to. But at this time of year, they are inspired to be more true to themselves, and things can kind of get creepy and weird. My best advice for protecting yourself or preventing yourself from being verhexed by an actual Pennsylvania German hex, a nefarious witch, is to not piss one off. Not as easy as it sounds. I found that they're a little petty, trigger happy, I guess you could say. They really want to work that magic. They really want to do something against you and verhex you. So don't piss off your local witch. If you get invited to a local Wicca coven's Samhain Halloween celebration, by all means attend. It could be a fun time, and you'll probably learn something. Well, I've been to many. But if you come across an actual verhexen, steer clear. Turn around, go in the opposite direction, and go back to all that protective stuff we just talked about, because if you cross the path of a hex, it's going to be a sad situation for you. Contact me and we'll try and figure it out together, but stay safe out there. Way back in the 1990s, I was searching for religion. I was searching for God. I was searching for magic. I wanted to know more about powwow. It led me to a traditional witchcraft organization here in Pennsylvania. And by that, I don't mean a Wicca group. I don't mean a modern witchcraft group. Although they had some of those elements in there incorporated, but this was old school, traditional hexerai. And I embraced it wholeheartedly. I wanted to know. And I learned so much as a part of that group. Like, I learned the common things like astrology, runes, divination, scrying, all sorts of high ritualistic type magics, utilizing ritual tools like swords and knives and cups and such, and also low magics like little folk magic practices and such. One of the things that this organization had was what was called a burner. And the burner was a person schooled not just in nefarious magic, but also in powwow. They were a Hexenmeister, and I wanted to be that. I wanted to be the burner. I remember saying that to the head of our group at the time. I would love to be the burner. And she gave me this big warning, like, no, you would not, because it takes a toll on you. It has its price. So I continued my training. I worked through all the levels of elevation. I finally got to the 3rd degree, which was the highest level. And at that time, that's about the time when you start learning the actual powwow stuff. Well, I was having a lot of difficulty understanding their version of powwow, and so it kind of led me off in a different direction. I left the group and I just kind of went on my own. But because I had spent so many years working this like darker hexerai magic and fully embracing, I went headfirst into it. I dove into it. It took me to a really dark place in my life. So it had all these like negative effects on my life. So I kind of made a course correction and I overcorrected. I fully embraced my Christian roots, started going back to church, and I kind of went off the deep end with that for a little bit, and eventually it balanced out. But what I'm getting at here is that a Hexenmeister is a powwow, such as myself, who is also trained in the art of hexerai, such as myself. So not only can we work curses, should we want to, which we don't, but we can identify them and we can work against them. We can undo them. We can send them back to their source because we know how they work. We've been trained in that kind of magic. And now we use our powwow training to combat that kind of magic. So that is what a Hexenmeister is. We are very rare, I would say. I would say we're very rare. I don't actually know any other Hexenmeisters other than myself. Now I'm hoping my training in January, the course that I have, will change that. But as it is right now, if you're in need of a Hexenmeister, you can contact me, because I currently do not know anyone else that has embraced that career, I guess you could call it. A Hexenmeister, that is what we do. We combat evil witchcraft, we help you fend off spirits and evil things, and we help you protect yourself, which is really the point of all of this video. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you contact me if you need me. But just remember that there is help out there. If you are attacked by someone who is a hex, an evil witch, like we just talked about a little while ago, contact me, the Hexenmeister, because I'll know what to do to help you. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this first annual installment of the Powwow Halloween Spooktacular. Just some basics on the things that we believe and that we understand and that we know to be true and that we do. So, as always, I wish you a great evening, a great week ahead, a happy Halloween, and I'll be back next week with the weekly update, and I might have a special guest. So we'll see. So happy Halloween, my friends. God bless you. Stay safe. Love you. And we'll talk very soon.